Comic Boom here to review Doctor Strange #2. Mark Waid continues to do a very good job here, guys. This continues the story from last issue where Doctor Strange ended up stranded on a strange planet whereby he's looking for magic. He's lost all his magical powers. He's lost even his connection to magic. And last issue had Tony Stark helping him out by lending him one of his ships, putting a universal translator into Doctor Strange, saying, "Hey, go to this planet here. I put the coordinates. I pre-programmed the coordinates into my Iron Man ship, and you can fly to this other planet, and you can look for magic in other realms, on other worlds, because maybe just because Earth lost its magic, or you've lost your connection to magic on Earth, maybe you'll be able to find it by going to other planets, because it's a big universe out there." Well, it ends up that he crash lands on a planet that was not on basically the pre-coordinated set of list of planets that Tony Stark was going to send him to, and he ends up on a planet called Grinda, and the Grindans, or I guess the Grindans, the natives to this planet, they don't even have a word for magic, and they don't particularly like him, and they're kind of a cruel species. And Doctor Strange ends up getting imprisoned. He spends about, I believe they said about 78 or 80 days in prison. And meanwhile, he ends up with a cellmate by the name of, who we later discover her name is Kana, or Kanna, Kana. And the way you actually pronounce her name, it's almost like Mitzias Patelik, like it's a crazy spelling. But it's very interesting because his cellmate Kana is actually not an archaeologist but an arcanologist, like arcane, as in the arcane arts, the magical arts. She's an arcanologist, whereby she grew up in a world of science, but she loves magic. And what I love what Mark Waid is doing here is that he hinted at it in the first issue. He's creating an interplay between science and magic, such that for example, Doctor Strange might use his magical powers to create some sort of some portal to another realm, but there might be a scientific explanation for what he's doing. But Doctor Strange only knows the language of magic, whereas a scientist might have a different explanation for the phenomena that's occurring. And so it's interesting that where I think Mark Waid might be going with this is that, what is the distinction between magic and science? I think it's interesting. I think it was Isaac Asimov that said to a primitive species, what might appear to be a miracle to a primitive species might be nothing but advanced science to another species. And so, one person might consider it magic, and another person might just say, "That's not magic, that's just a flashlight," right? I mean, do you know how a flashlight works? If you've never seen a flashlight before, you might think it's magic. But in any event, the concept's not rocket science from a storytelling point of view, but when you draw it to its natural conclusion, it's kind of interesting that Doctor Strange thinks that he's lost his connection to magic. And yet, if there is such a close relationship between magic and science, and if science can duplicate magic, then how do you ever really lose magic? If you can't lose science, how can you really lose magic? And I'm just throwing that out there. It just seems rather odd to me, but I think it's interesting where Mark Waid might be going with this. At the end of this, Doctor Strange and his new partner, I guess Kana, they manage to escape the planet, and Doctor Strange manages to trap the Grindans on their own planet by they finally acquire a magical artifact, and he activates it. And in activating it, other forces have been alerted to his use of magic, and they don't like that. And I don't know who all these other forces are, but they show up at the end here, and it's going to be interesting to see where this story progresses ahead. Guys, this is a great issue. It's very accessible. I highly recommend it. I don't know much about Doctor Strange, but I'm loving this. The art is fantastic. Full compliments to Jesus Says, is it Jose Saez? I apologize, I'm butchering the names, but this is well worth the read, guys. This is part of Marvel's fresh start, and a wonderful fresh start it is. This is such a breath of fresh air from where Doctor Strange was prior to this. Donny Cates did an admirable job before this, but this is better. Mark Waid's doing a really good job here. Keep it up, Mark Waid. And until next time, guys, Comic Boom, out.